Hey everybody, welcome to Tribal Trades. We've got the daily show coming at you from the great state of Florida. And I just want to welcome you all to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in wherever you are around the world. And of course, you know what I'm going to say next. If you're a regular watcher, smash those likes, smash the like button. That's going to help get this content out to more people and is going to help support the channel. So I really appreciate that. Also, just want to thank everybody. Always feel overwhelmed with all the wonderful comments, kind words, encouragement that you leave. I do read them all and I acknowledge those. So thank you for those. And all the questions that get left there, I do look to get back to those as quickly as I am able to. In the description below as well, there are links, including my cheat sheet, which has all my entries and exit for certain altcoins for this cycle, as well as other great free resources, links, and other things. So check that out. Also below, the Stocks with Josh Discord. Okay, this is where I am daily interacting with the most incredible community on the planet. And so if you haven't signed up for the Discord or you aren't part of a crypto community, really would encourage you to do so. The links are below, so check those out. Okay, so we're going to jump into the news cycle and then we're going to jump into the charts. And first of all, I want to ask you, what do you think the price of Bitcoin is going to be a 1 year after the halving day in 2024, which is coming up probably in about 6-7 months or so, I guess. 2012, we saw 1 year later. 2016, 661 to 2600. This was the big one in 2020, 8,000 to 58,000 a year later. And then, of course, it got to a cycle top of about 69,000. And then what do you think the price of Bitcoin is going to be in April in 2025? I'd like to hear your prediction of what you think the price is going to be a year after the halving. That would be that could be quite, I think it's easy. It might be easy to call a Bitcoin top actually in the cycle, which we're going to look at in a little bit. But I just thought that was very interesting to see the gains and what could happen between now and April, just zooming out with the bigger picture there, okay? Then also 44 days before US elections, we've got central banks are cutting rates, FTX repayments are about to happen. Bitcoin is preparing itself for something special. We see previously in the last couple of cycles could see a bit of a melt faces moment for Bitcoin. Let's see what happens with that price action there. Of course, we've already seen a big upside to Bitcoin in this bull market so far. Nearly 2 billion in Bitcoin futures contracts open in just 48 hours. That's what we're calling open interest. When I talk about open interest, that is positions open on Bitcoin. We could be looking at a potential long squeeze. What is a long squeeze? Well, it's the opposite of short squeeze. What's a short squeeze? Well, a short squeeze is too many shorts have opened and the market jumps up and squeezes and liquidates all of those positions, sending the asset higher, or hits all the stop losses there as well. And so the long squeeze is the opposite, where too many longs have opened, the price drops and it squeezes all those highly leveraged longs and liquidates them. I will be doing a leverage show upcoming, so stay tuned for that. I hope to have that out in the next week or so. Okay, I do like this. We've got here the famous quote from Dr. Puel. Time to buy Bitcoin is at the bottom. And of course, that was back at 16K, and I believe it was early January 2024. And then the second best time is to buy post-halving reaccumulation. And so you can see here, the best times to buy it was one here, and then in this reaccumulation phase, the bottom, reaccumulation phase, the bottom, reaccumulation phase. This is why I've been urging people since I started this channel just 3 months ago, and we already have over 3,500 subscribers. So thank you all for joining this channel and being part of this community, amazing community. But I've been telling people accumulate. We're in the reaccumulation phase, okay? And so I do feel that some altcoins have popped off a bit early, but there are still some altcoins that are in the reaccumulation phase there. So some very interesting insight. I kind of like this chart. Boom, boom, 1, 2, and then bang over here. So we still are, I still think it's actually a good time. Well, when was the best time to buy Bitcoin? Obviously at 16K there, and certainly when it popped down to about 48K there. But certainly if you believe it's going 100,000, you're still going to make money on any Bitcoin buys that you make. And of course, altcoins will follow Bitcoin's lead. Of course. Now, so Michael Saylor came out saying that Bitcoin to 5 million, there was three things that were going to help do it. Number one was the spot ETF approval. That's happened. Custody and lend against Bitcoin as collateral. Now, I think BNY Mellon has now allowed to do custody. I'm not sure if it's allowed to lend against Bitcoin as collateral, but if that happens, that's a game changer because you won't have to sell your Bitcoin. You basically park your Bitcoin with the bank in custody and then be able to against Bitcoin as collateral there, which I think would be an absolute game changer. So you don't actually have to sell your Bitcoin. You can use it as collateral. Okay. And then talking about what is fair accounting rules from the FASB. And this is a great question. I did back in December 2023. They talked about how this was going to change for Bitcoin. Because if you're buying Bitcoin, the problem that you've had, and this is why only MicroStrategy and Tesla up until spot ETF and these rules changing wanted to put Bitcoin on the balance sheets. Number one, there was a lot of red tape. It was a very expensive and time-consuming process to be able to legally add Bitcoin to your balance sheet. MicroStrategy and Tesla went through that process. Number two is because of the fair accounting rules from the FASB, which is why Tesla had been keen to keep adding Bitcoin to its balance sheet because of this reason. And what it meant was that if you bought Bitcoin and the price of the asset went down, okay, even if it rebounded, you would have to record as that low price on your balance sheet, okay, even though you hadn't taken that loss. Even though you hadn't sold at a loss, you would have to report it like you sold it at a loss. And so now they're going to bring in fair accounting, which is going to be a game changer for companies. And so Bitcoin and crypto to be measured at fair value under new FASB rules. And you can read this article from the NASDAQ here and see they'll disclose the value of the cryptocurrency based on their market prices at the end of each reporting period, okay, which was not the case previously. Previously, old treatment accounted for Bitcoin. I mean, if the price went lower than what companies bought it for, they had to take an impairment charge on their books, even if they didn't sell it. But if the price went up, they couldn't receive any benefit on the books unless they sold. With fair accounting value, they can report the unrealized gains and losses to get actual benefit of the books if the price of the asset increases without having to sell to capture it. So absolute game changer. And so this is why he feels it's going to go up to $5 million. What do you think will be the price of Bitcoin, particularly in this bull cycle? I don't think he mentioned it's going to be $5 million. Is he saying it's Bitcoin and $5 million in this cycle? I'm not sure. That would be something else. I'm not seeing Bitcoin to $5 million in this cycle. However, my cycle top prediction was about $100,000 to $120,000, and I've certainly given a little bit of a range. As we get closer to the end of the market, I'll look to narrow that. I did feel that 150 to 170,000 was a possibility, and that was one of my other price areas of interest that I identified as a possibility. And so, but I'm going to stick with the $100,000 to $120,000 range. And then obviously, I'd like to know what your price prediction is going to be. What will that be? What is your prediction on that? I'd love to hear it. Put it down in the comments below what you think. And there's no right or wrong answers. Nobody's gotten in Marty McFly's car and gone to the future I'm aware of. Okay. So why don't you do that? Pop that down in the comments. I'd love to see what you think the price of Bitcoin will be as the cycle top for this 4-year cycle. Okay. Is the best yet to come? I believe it is. I believe the best is yet to come for your life, for this community, for our portfolios. And I think certainly we're going to see Bitcoin, the best is still yet to come in this cycle. And so you can see here that Bitcoin bottomed 547 days prior to 16 halving and topped about 518 after. Then we had the same bottom 517 days prior and then top 549 days after. And then we have the same thing here. We bottom 517 days before, and if we do top about 549 days after. I mean, look at this. Can you get more exact? To the day, to the actual day. And this is why people when they keep calling for things that don't fit the cycle narrative, like drops or prices or pumps, I generally will say, until the cycle is broken, I want to follow the cycle. And the cycle tells us some things. So that's October 2025 that we would find in October of all months, that we would find that to happen. But of course, it's not always been, we had it topped 518 days, which would put us in Rectember of 2025, although it's been a bit of a September this time around. So anyway, a couple of things there. They do act like mirrors. They do act like mirrors before and after. I think this is a brilliant piece of analysis from Rect Capital, and the best of the Bitcoin bull market is yet to come. I believe that to be so as well. And I do believe that we're in a bit of a markup phase, and certainly we can see here, if we follow the previous cycles, this is what's coming next. We have this fear, disbelief, and manipulation markup. Fear, disbelief, manipulation, markup. And that's what we've kind of had, July and August and September. Those three dumps had people calling for Bitcoin to go to $30,000, except it went the opposite way, and it jumped up from 48, 49,000 up to 62, 63, 64,000. So let's see what happens next. And of course, it's very bullish that a bank now is has been granted that custodial situation here of approved to custody Bitcoin in kind. And BNY Mellon custodies 48.8 trillion in assets. We've also had the BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF options approved. So some of you who trade options, that has now been approved. Over 1 trillion is traded in the US options market daily. There's just more and more things coming out that are bullish, and I just can't get behind people calling for it to drop to the 30K region. I just don't know what that's about, to be honest. Okay, we have Rocktober is coming up, and we may finish with September. Now we've got a little bit to go, so I'm not going to say anything about it yet, but October is set to melt faces. Get ready for an explosive fourth quarter ahead. Again, looking historically at the Bitcoin cycles, if it plays out as normal, October breakout, are we going to see another October breakout there in the Bitcoin cycle? We're going to have to wait and see. Of course, we have the M2 money supply. Generally, you just keep setting new all-time highs in the Bitcoin money supply as well. So that's hugely bullish there as well. But for now, Bitcoin has been stuck in a tight range with dropping volatility. The only time Bitcoin has been this stable for 180 days was in August 2023 and May 2016, and both were preludes to major breakouts. Again, history doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. So certainly some very interesting thing. And then as I was saying about the money supply breaking new all-time high after new all-time high, generally, again, historically, Bitcoin follows the liquidity like a sponge with that. Okay, so just super important. And then, all right, so let's jump into Bitcoin and let's look at the charts. And what do I see here is some big wicks. What did I say to you about 64, 65K level? Bang, lot of sell pressure, because this is where we broke down from. And cascaded all the way down about 52K here. And so now, again, these were dips that I called on this channel after they happened. I didn't call them when we're halfway up. I called them a few days after. I said, this is going to be the low. This is going to be the low here. This is going to be the low here. If you bought, then you make big increases up to here. You buy here. And, look, I did take some profits up here. I have to be honest. And again, up to here, I did take profits on my altcoins that were in profit. And so this just makes sense to me. Now, obviously, there were two scenarios that I had laid out. The first scenario yesterday was that we could come out here and hang around here for a little bit. and stay close to that. If we see that and we see these wicks become a little bit shorter and shorter, like we do here, initially we saw a wick and then they got smaller and then we busted through. Initially here you can see that we have a little bit of a longer wick here, but then we got closes that were a little bit higher and then we busted through. If we see the same thing here, we've got some longer wicks and some closes down here. If we see some and we come pushing up against here, then that's a sign for me that we're going to break above this and use this as support and then push on. However, if I start to see a rejection here with lots of longer wicks and coming down and closes lower, then that tells me we're going to come down to the 50-day moving average and the 200 EMA that is sitting pretty close to each other down over here at around 59,500 and about 59,300 is crossed below. That's a fairly bearish cross, by the way, but that's a lagging indicator in my opinion, because you can see it happened after the drop, okay? And I did do a video a few days ago where I show historically what has happened when the 50-day moving average and the 200-day EMA converge like that. Usually there is a big price breakout move after that happens, okay? And we're starting to see that there. So I feel like right now, based off what I can see right now, and this could change tomorrow or the next day, depending on what kind of closes we get here with these candles, the most likely scenario is that we could just continue to stay up here for a little while before breaking through to that 69 to 70K area. Now, if I see a bit of a sell-off, another long wick here, and I see a lower close than what was on this candle here, and this body comes down to here, and we've got a longer wick up here, and we see this body come down to here, or even lower, of course, then I would be more inclined to think that we're going to come more down and come and retest here, right here. We could bop around in this channel for a little bit, down and then up and along until we finally break out. Look, I have identified this all along this area here in the fourth quarter as the breakout area. And if you go back to all my videos going all the way back to May when I first started this channel, I've been identified this all along. And I've told you all along that this is going to be the time right here. We see this continue to come up. We can stretch this out a little bit here, a little bit more here, and we can certainly stretch this down a little bit more here as well. Just being careful with that we're going to see a breakout from this channel here. There's also another wedge here, and it has offered as support, and that's why I leave it in there. It has offered as support, and it was resistance as well. And then the trend line here, we'll see if it comes up and see if there is more resistance as it comes up. But you can see there's order blocks there, okay? There's order blocks there, and that's why we've had some sell pressure to the downside there. And so let's see what happens. But I do think, based on what I see right now, if Bitcoin just stays up here, we'll eventually break through this level to the upside. But if we start to see some wicks coming down and we start to see that push down a little bit, I think it's actually more likely that's a weakness for me, and we're going to come down and retest. So just watch these closes up here. Watch the close today. Watch the close tomorrow. That could give you a bit of an indication about what's about to happen. If we see the cluster, see this little cluster here, you can see how the bodies of those candles are right up against the 200 EMA. Boom, push through, okay? If we see something similar like that over there, over around this area here, at the moment we're not seeing that. I'd like to see us push up higher against that. So that shows for right now. So for right now, we're not pushing up like I would like to say. We've got one candle here, but that's today. So these two candles here show a push down, not show a bumping up against this level here that we need to break through. Okay, so I'll be watching those candles. I'll be updating in the Discord and on the YouTube channel daily. Remember, I've got my stock show coming tomorrow, my weekly stock show. So also, we've got the altcoin show that is coming up in just a few hours. So make sure you check out the altcoin show coming up in a few hours. The stock show coming up tomorrow. And until then, happy trading.